with the United States officials' early assessment of the evidence uncovered in the investigation into the June 12th crash in Ahmedabad, India, that killed 260 people. So the Wall Street Journal essentially going out, Western media speculating on the focuses on the pilot error despite government asking to desist. It is the Wall Street Journal who has blamed the pilot. The Western media going ahead, blaming the Indian pilots. AI 171 crash probe gets murkier, where speculation or a head job is what Western media is at it again. The new Wall Street Journal report has targeted the pilot. They have said, and I quote, a cockpit recording of dialogue between the two pilots of Air India flight that crashed last month indicates the captain cut the flow of the fuel to the plane's engines. Abhishek Kapoor, senior executive editor, is joining us on the phone line on that. Abhishek, what is the Western media really trying to do after targeting the Indian pilots?
Well, you see, this is a classic case of Rashomon effect, as it is called, where a sliver of information is used to varying interpretations or your motivated interpretations. The latter, most likely, in the case of Western media, because the reason why I say this is more likely a case of motivated reporting is because even before the report was out, an insinuation had begun that this was due to pilot error, that this was because of the fuel control switch not in its right place, or that it was moved. Now, how could a Western media platform put a conjecture that the switch was not at the right place? In fact, the switch was at the right place, only that the report says that from run, it had gone to shut off, and then from shut off, the pilot had moved it back to run. Now, all these details obviously were not available beforehand, and yet media speculation began first in Air Current magazine, which I believe is a focused aviation magazine, and then, of course, the Wall Street Journal, which has followed it up with this report now, which has come out, which sort of even more vocally tries to put onus on pilot error, and in fact, it actually says that the captain perhaps changed the levers of the fuel control switch from run to shut off. Now, the AAIB report does not mention which pilot said what. It only says pilot A said to pilot B, are the switches, did you shut down the lever, fuel control switch, to which the other pilot says no. Now, despite the fact that the report is not identifying any pilot, the Wall Street Journal pushes the envelope. Now, remember, the initial probe report is just that, initial probe report. And for this kind of interpretation spin to be given, I think, as I said, this is a classic case of Rashomon effect, with most likely a motivated campaign being the objective, to tarnish the pilot and to get the airline and, of course, the company of the aircraft, Boeing, completely off the hook even before the final probe report is out, because that's going to take time. And so coloring of the investigation and the probe has already begun, is something which we can sense from this series of reports that are really emerging in the Western media, which are sort of preempting the probe. They preempted the probe, the initial probe report, and now they seem to be trying to influence the investigation going forward.
Absolutely, Abhishek. One more question before I let you go. The prejudice that the Western media is forming about the Indian pilots, the speculation that they are giving out that it was the pilot's fault because of which AI 171 crashed. Do you think this matter will be taken up by the Indian government, keeping in mind how the Western media is casting doubts on our pilots?
Well, ideally, the government should, in the sense that the government has come out with the Minister of Civil Aviation, his deputy, and others, making it clear that no speculation should be indulged in, that no conclusions should be drawn, because this is absolutely initial primary report to meet the mandate of global standards of civil aviation. And so this kind of conjecture and, giving a slant or suggestion to what is absolutely preliminary finding is absolutely uncalled for. So I think in that sense, the government can really, they cannot pull up, because it's after all media freedom, they cannot pull up anyone, but at least make a statement that these reports are speculative and they do not help the cause of truth, and they do not help the cause of an honest, transparent and efficient investigation.
Absolutely, Abhishek. Thank you very much for getting us those details. Remains to be seen on what action will the government of India take as far as the propaganda of the Western media is concerned. We move on to the other stories that we are tracking. The Baloch Liberation Army, the BLA, has claimed responsibility for 2 deadly attacks on Pakistani military forces, killing 29 personnel in